This sounds ridiculous, but the show might have been a little too highbrow for me. Also, yes, the title of this video is a pun, but in my defense, I was bullied into it. Butt lovers! Welcome back to the Lore series where we explore shows the one time I did commercials is dead to me until further notice that no one else is brave enough to. 2 months ago, I covered Sophia the First, which introduced me to Elena of AvaLORE. The first thing we learn about Elena in the Sophia special is that she's been trapped in the Amulet of AvaLORE for 41 years and her parents were brutally murdered in front of her. An intense start to a very intense series. Elena of AvaLORE is angstier than Sophia the First in every single way. Elena of AvaLORE had 3 seasons and 77 episodes overall. It ran from 2016 to 2020, so it was much after my time. Usual disclaimer. Although the show I'm covering is made for kids, these videos are not. I'm viewing this show through the lens of an adult woman that just so happens to like cartoons she's out of the demographic for. And usually I bullshit around on this channel. Like my last video was for Doodle Bops. That's not a very story-driven show. Elena of AvaLORE, this was a lot, guys. This is above my pay grade.
Who are you people?
So we have 2 main groups, her friends and her family. Her family consists of her grandparents and her younger sister Isabella, who were also all stuck in a family portrait for 41 years. So Elena, Abuelo, Abuela, and Isabella, at the start of the series, all haven't aged despite 41 years going by. Elena's cousin Esteban, however, is about 50 years old, despite him only being 2 or 3 years older than Elena before the invasion happened, before all of them got trapped in various objects. Also, I hate to give this coward any credit, but it looks damn good for 50. Holy shit! We're gonna talk a lot more about Esteban later, but for now, let's focus on the rest of the family. Elena, the main character, the titular bitchular, if you will, starts the series as a 16-year-old very eager to lead. For now, she's crowned princess, but she's very excited to be queen. Abuelo and Abuela are genuinely the sweetest. Her grandfather was born into royalty, while her grandmother actually grew up making chocolate with her family, which is probably how the two met, considering her grandpa has a huge sweet tooth. I was afraid Isabella was going to fall into the helpless victim role, but she does not at all. She's an inventor and just as headstrong as Elena, so by the end of the series, she really fought for her place on the team, defending the kingdom alongside her sister. And her inventions were actually super useful. Like, I remember one of the last ones she made was like this bow and arrow, but the arrowhead had like poison in it. Badass! Moving on to Elena's 3 friends. First, we have Matteo, the royal wizard, and the only one of the friends we actually saw in the Sophia the First special. Matteo is the one who freed Elena's family from the family portrait. Instead of using wands like the sorcerers do in Sophia the First, in this series, he and the other wizards use a tamburita, which is a drum wand, and I love the spells and magic of this show. There's so much flair and pizzazz. It's so much more fun. Pikachu, use apologize! Anyway, Matteo's probably my favorite character, but he also angers me beyond belief because I just feel like his power level and intelligence is very inconsistent. Gabe and Naomi were introduced in First Day of Rule. It was Gabe's first day being a royal guard, and Naomi ran up to Elena yelling at her about how the ships were being stolen. And what are you gonna do about all these ships? Do you even give a ship? Naomi ended up being on the royal council for her courage and ability to stick up for what's right. It's also great that Elena is surrounded by people her own age, because outside of her family, she's had to build a new support system since being stuck in the amulet. This series talks more about the ancient powers at play surrounding AvaLORE since the ancient civilization of Maru has fallen. But first, let's go back to what we know from Sophia the First and compare AvaLORE to Enchancia.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
The leadership strategies we see in this show are very different from the ones we see in Sophia the First, thank God. I'm getting these comparisons out of the way right now so we can focus on the unique story of this show, but let's just say, AvaLORE is way more for the people than Enchancia ever was. This is seen especially in the episode Wizard in Training, where they invite everyone in the village to come to the castle to tell them everything they needed or wanted from the royal family. And then it seems like they actually helped everyone there. And an even more impressive example of this is in the episode The Return of El Captain. In this episode, Elena's abuelo shared a secret with her that when he was younger, he took on a secret identity to fight villains. This means that the royals in AvaLORE took on other jobs to continue to protect their civilians. Meanwhile, Sophia the First's stepdad Roland is like, wah, I have to sign another treaty. My life's so hard. I think a core aspect of AvaLORian culture that encourages this less condescending look at townspeople is the presence of chanuls. angels, or spirit guides. Now, to be clear, these guides can't force them to do anything, they can only encourage them. And to the people of AvaLORE's credit, some of this advice seems really difficult to take. For example, in the very first episode, Elena's Chanul gives her advice that she should just go up to the Noblins that look like this, by the way, and ask why they stole all the ships and stole her little sister. Hi, guys. I don't like her tone. I was just wondering, like, why did you steal the ships and my little... Because we felt like it. This is a lesson that can only happen in Disney or Steven Universe. And guys, just so you know, I feel like I make a lot of, like, little jokes about Steven Universe. I love Steven Universe. But anyway, I still wouldn't trust the Noblins. And I know for a fact Roland wouldn't. Another thing that helps the royals stay personable and grounded in AvaLORE is the absence of royal academies. In season 1, episode 14, Crystal in the Rough, we saw Elena's little sister Isabella going to a normal school. Meanwhile, in Sofia the First, royal prep is a very prevalent part of their stories. It leads to some silly interactions, sure, but also leads them into a lot of classism. That was until Sofia came along, but it was rough before that. The last difference I noticed led me down the weirdest, strangest internet rabbit hole I've ever been on. So in AvaLORE, they celebrate Christmas, and I remembered back in Sofia the First, they celebrated this kind of generic winter holiday called Wazalia. So I made the mistake of Googling it. Maybe it's a holiday in a different language, or maybe it's a holiday I never heard of. But turns out it's just a fictional holiday. Cute. End of story, right? The domain wazalia.com was bought by somebody who seems very bothered that Sofia doesn't celebrate Christmas. Years ago, when my daughter was younger, once of the grandparents bought her Sofia the First, Holiday in Enchancia. Soon into reading this book to her, it was very apparent Disney was avoiding the term Christmas. The artwork is clearly drawing from classical Christmas. Prior to this, my daughter was a fan of Sofia the First. When I had to explain to my 3-year-old daughter that Wazalia was a made-up holiday, despite its artistic resemblance to the traditions we already exposed her to about Christmas in a Catholic family. Needless to say, I was very upset that I even had to explain this to a 3-year-old who didn't understand. I grew up with Mickey's Christmas carols, etc. You can just show her those, like, they still exist. It's very, like, I love Christmas. Christmas is my favorite holiday. This is fucking weird. And there's also a game. They made a side-scrolling platformer, Wazalia Girl Christmas Run. And it's like Cookie Run, but Christmas. Okay, there's presents and rings. Where is baby Jesus? Where's the Christmas?
You're taking the Christmas from my Christmas.
Smell, 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 smell.
The first thing that was established is that Elena still has some of the Amulet of AvaLORE's magic within her. This is how she's able to see Zuzo even when he's not summoned. For most people, they can only see their Chanul when a wizard summons them, and then all the other times they're being guided by their spirit guides, it acts more like a conscience, where they only hear them. At the end of the first episode, she's also given this scepter. Now, when it's in her hands, it starts to glow. And everyone's like, that doesn't usually happen. Guess we'll wait 9 episodes to see what that's about. Before that, though, one other non-scepter related power is she is able to see ghosts on Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. During the episode Scepter of Light, we find out more about her scepter, and why it lights up like that. Elena realizes that the scepter is Maruvian, just like the Amulet of AvaLORE, and that it's actually channeling the magic from within her. So even this scepter magic is a result of her sitting in that magic stew for 41 years. Somehow her mind didn't age past 16 years, but she can make the Scepter of Light glow, which you think it would be able to do on its own, given the name. The scepter also takes a tremendous amount of energy to wield. The more she uses, the more she loses. This was seen especially the first time she used it. This is when she had to take down the Moth Fairy, Orizaba, before she sent AvaLORE into an eternal night. After Orizaba was taken down by the scepter power of glow, Elena passed out and was asleep for 2 days. This is when she started training with Mateo to strengthen her magic. The scepter powers we've also seen her use are Glow, Ablaze, Reveal, which when pointed at a surface makes you see what's behind it, Illuminate to see secret messages, Foresight helps you see whoever or whatever you think of no matter how far they are. This is great for intel, like something can be happening miles away, but when you use Foresight, you can see in the present moment. Also, there's Envision, followed by whatever you want to make an illusion of, and also the powers of Vanish and Bloom. These are all the ones that we see before the Season 3 power-up, which we'll discuss later. One thing thing I really like about Elena's power is that it doesn't come naturally to her. She really has to work at it. I think this is what was missing from Sofia the First, because everything came so effortlessly to Sofia, I never thought she would fail. Meanwhile, we've seen Elena fail multiple times throughout the series, and every time it leads to a lesson learned, and every lesson will help her be a better leader. There are 3 main storylines. Let's discuss the first one.
But you're supposed to die!
Season 1, Episode 17, King of the Carnival, we meet the father and daughter duo of Victor and Carla. Victor was Esteban and Elena's childhood friend. Victor blackmails Esteban saying, if you don't help me rob the royal treasury, then I will tell your family what you did. So here's the thing, Esteban's betrayal is layered, and we will get into the tomfuckery later, but basically, his family knew that he worked for Shuriki once they were trapped, and they thought he did this for survival, like he didn't have a choice. But what they didn't know is that Esteban helped Shuriki, you know, the one that killed Elena's parents. Yeah, he helped her invade. So it wasn't like she took over and then he started working for her. He started working for her in order to backstab his family. But they don't know that part yet. And she told me no one would get hurt to death, but that won't bring Elena's parents back to life. You know what I mean? It's time to take some fucking accountability. So when Victor comes up to him and says, hey, I'm blackmailing you, what do you think Esteban does? Do you think he A, says, no way I'm betraying my family again. You can tell them if you want, and I will deal with the consequences of my actions. Or do you think he B, helped him steal from the royal treasury? Ding, time's up. You already know it's B. So even though he helps them steal from the treasury, Victor and Carla did not get away with the jewels. So Victor tries to tell Elena, and Elena does not believe him for a second. She doesn't even have a lingering suspicion. I'm going to call Carla and Victor the jewel thieves from now on when I'm referring to both of them. So the next episodes in the jewel thieves arc is the 2-part special, The Realm of Jacquins. We'll discuss Jacquin culture later. All you need to know is that they're half jaguar, half macaw. Skylar's brother Nico failed his guardian test because the jewel thieves sabotaged him. They did this so they can sneak into Viastrea, the realm of the Jacquins. And because Nico failed, he has to be sent back there. So the jewel thief snuck through the portal and freed the forest sprite Marimonda, who wants to cover AvaLORE in vines and destroy all the buildings, homes, and humans there. In part 2, it's revealed to the audience that Marimonda was just a distraction, and the jewel thieves got the jewel from the door that freed her to give to Shuriki so she can restore her youth. Now this is a huge deal because all of the main characters assume Shuriki is dead. Now this plot twist would have twisted harder if they didn't show Shuriki's hand popping out of the water at the end of the Sofia special, but I guess that was their way of building intrigue and interest for this series. Now let's really explain the horror of Shuriki. In the Sofia special, we got to see her dictatorship and how she stayed in power for 41 years despite no one liking her. For those 41 years, she did everything in her power to kill the culture and spirit of the people, outlawing music, dancing, and magic. So now the jewel thieves are seeking out a jewel powerful enough to become Shuriki's new wand, restoring her power fully. They achieved this in an absolutely bonkers arc from Season 2, Episode 5 to Season 2, Episode 7. Carla used a shape-shifting potion to completely change her appearance. She started calling herself Rita and quickly befriended Naomi and Elena. Carla/Rita's first plan to steal the jewel from a crown in the royal treasury fell through, but she quickly came up with another plan, which pretty much only consisted of flirting with Matteo. And it worked way too well. It was hilarious, but it was also infuriating to see just how far she got by exploiting his simpage. She stole a potion, unfroze Fierro the evil sorcerer, who was frozen by Matteo Season 1 Episode 5, and that was easily the coolest thing he did, but any credit for that is gone because he's directly responsible for bringing him back. And Carla/Rita also stole the treasury key from Matteo when she was dancing with him, which is how she got the jewel for Shuriki's new wand. And Shuriki immediately used that new wand to almost kill Naomi and Elena. I was waiting for this ongoing joke to lead into a huge blow-up directed at him from Elena and his friends, but I should have known that wasn't gonna happen. To be fair, I can't believe this is even a plot point to begin with. Now I shall show you the confrontation scene I think should have been included in the series. What were you thinking? I'm sorry, Shut your bitch ass up! That was a rhetorical question. You weren't thinking. Elena, Shuriki's getting away. I don't give a fuck! Was it worth it, Matteo? Was a little kiss worth it? We actually never Kiss. Aw, Mateo didn't get a little smoochy smooch. You're fired! Don't ever talk to me again! Jeez, Elena, don't you think you're being a little harsh?
I wish you died instead of my parents!
I'm gonna move on like that wasn't one of the weirdest things I've ever done, and for me, that's saying a lot. The next episode, Season 2, Episode 8, Shapeshifters, starts with Elena and Esteban having a cabinet battle political disagreement of sorts, with Esteban arguing that Elena should stay home and stay safe. Elena retaliated and begged them to let her fight. Then she casually raps, "The nation's in fear, I'll intercept her with my scepter and make her disappear," as if that isn't the hardest line of all time. Jeez Louise, bars! I only bring up that disagreement to mention the song because it was really good, because it doesn't matter what they decided. Elena went anyway. Elena, Mateo, and Gabe discover through a hidden message that the bad guys are searching for the Scepter of Night. Mateo's abuelo, Alcazar, who we met in the Sofia special, split the scepter in 3, the staff, the mount, and the jewel, and hid them in 3 different locations. Now they're racing against the bad guys to try and prevent them from assembling the Scepter of Night. Season 2, Episode 9, Mateo pulls more I'm the main character type shit. This is not Mateo of AvaLORE, sit your ass down. He tries to retrieve the staff on his own even though they were supposed to work as a team. In the end, despite Mateo's second accidental sabotage, they actually got to the staff first, and things are looking up. Until the next episode when Shuriki got the entire scepter.
This is a load of barnacles.
And her strategy was actually brilliant. She used how badly Elena wanted to kill her as a distraction while her minions did her dirty work. In the episode A Tale of Two Scepters, we learned that the Scepter of Night is just straight up an evil instrument. I thought there'd be more nuance, but the shadows are evil and this is their greatest weapon. And it also directly contradicts the Scepter of Night's power. The light scepter's ablaze actually extinguishes the dark flames of the Scepter of Night. So they're encouraging fighting fire with fire, which I fully support. The end of Shuriki's Reign of Terror is in a 2-part special, Song of the Sirenas. This follows classic siren mythology, where the sirens sing to mind-control sailors and pirates and have them sink their ships. Naomi, being from a nautical family, distrusts sirens, which makes sense. But it turns out the sirens have changed. The king siren fell in love with a human that was drowning, turned her into a siren to save her, she fell in love with him right back, and they had kids. Now their kids are sirens, but when they're on land they can transform into humans. The daughter Marissa is trying to plead the sirens' case to the humans that still mistrust them. While celebrating in a parade with her cousin Duke Cristobal, Elena gets separated from her family and is ambushed by Shuriki. The first half of the special ends with Elena getting blasted by the Scepter of the Night, falling into the water, and the last shot we see of her is her drowning. This show stresses me out so much. I'm gonna tell my kids this was Game of Thrones. The second half of the Song of the Sirenas special opens with Marissa saving Elena by wrapping her with magical seaweed, which allows Elena to breathe underwater. When Elena returns, she tries to warn her cousin Duke, and her cousin's like, "Yeah, I know. I'm working with Shuriki. Plot twist, all your cousins are pieces of shit. Time to trim that family tree, dude." Fiyero, the evil sorcerer, also known as a Malvago, was frozen once again by Mateo. Then Shuriki and Elena go head to head. Shuriki blasts Elena's scepter, which causes it to act a bit funky. But in the end, Elena was still able to trick Shuriki by making herself vanish. Then when she reappears, she killed her with Blaze. And I love that they committed to killing Shuriki. Give Elena that peace of mind that she's not out there anymore, and she avenged her parents. I feel like a lot of shows push the message that if you do what your abuser did to you back to them, then you're a bad person. But this show doesn't entertain that for a second. Fuck Shuriki, she's dead. And when I first watched this, I was so surprised that that was the end of her story, because there was still so much of Elena of AvaLORE to go. The only loose end before everything goes to shit is that the jewel thieves escaped with the Jewel of the Scepter of the Night. During that whole arc, there were more villains that helped that I skimmed over for the sake of time, but let me introduce you to them before Shuriki gets replaced in the second half of the second season.
Evil!
I'm just gonna say it here, in all honesty, I think Shuriki was the best villain. But other than her, I already mentioned Fiyero, the Jewel Thieves, Orizaba, and Marimonda. We also have Cruz and Vestia, twin Jacquins. And the way they were weaved into this story felt kind of like an afterthought. Cruz was introduced first in the episode Shapeshifters, and he was being trained by Chief Zephyr. But when Cruz takes no interest in learning about Jacquin history, Zephyr's like, I think I picked the wrong person to replace me as chief. You're done. Psych, I take it back. And Cruz doesn't take this well. He traps Chief Zephyr and plans on leaving him there and I don't know, it was not a fully fleshed out plan. It seems like everything Cruz does is an act of passion, like he doesn't really think of things. His plans are thwarted, and then he mentions his sister in passing. I think he says something like, "My sister's not gonna like this," which makes her sound like a badass, but she's not. We meet Vestia in the race for the realm. She broke Cruz out of jail off screen, which I wish we got to see because that's probably the coolest thing she's done. But instead, we get to see their role alongside Shuriki and the Jewel Thieves as their little bitches. No joke. They get watered down to being transportation for the other villains. Another villain I failed to mention is Troyo, and he's actually kind of fun. He's a magical super fast coyote who wants to take revenge on the Jackwins for kicking him out of the jungle when he was tricking people into being bad. If he was doing this with magic, which most likely he was, then yeah, that's a valid reason to kick him out. But if he was just tricking people through his intellect, then you need to worry more about your people than you have to worry about him. In the season 3 episode Father in Chief, he was taken down by a butterfrog of all things. And he also turns into a butterfrog. In the season 3 episode King Skylar, he actually helps the Jackwins who are transformed by that same butterfrog. And he was repaid for this tip by being turned into a snurtle. The only thing worse than being a butterfrog. It's the very bottom of the food chain. It is revealed in the very last episode when he's seen in the spirit world that he died when he was a snurtle. He was eaten by a hawk. Out of all the villains, him suffering one of the worst fates is very unnecessary, but very funny. Like, why did they do Troyo like this? It came out of nowhere. Season 2, episode 17, The Tides of Change. I cannot wait to talk about this. Right after the Saiyanas helped take down Shuriki by saving Elena when she was drowning, and also by rocking the villain's boat so less of their attacks actually hit, we pick up with Elena wanting to sign a peace treaty between AvaLOR and the Saiyanas. This show takes making allies very seriously. And they're not just discarded after this, they're seen throughout the series. So it feels like their presence is purposeful and not just a one-off thing. This humans versus Sirens distrust comes to a head when the military leader of the Sirens makes a deal with evil shape-shifting river dolphins called Melandros to sabotage the Siren and human peace treaty. The Melandros actually are one-off villains, but they're the best. They double-crossed the Siren military lady because, duh. She honestly deserved it because while she was focused on her disdain of the humans, she forgot, oh wait, we live in water. They want our kingdom in the water. Why would they give a shit about these people that live on land when we live in water? She really thought that their shared hatred of humans would make this an honorable deal. But you're their biggest enemy in water? And you both live in water. So the leader of the Melandros is Soloso. And he sings one of my favorite songs in the series.
We were up the river when you came to me, made an offer with real deal.
To the point where I was like, God damn, who voices Soloso? And guys, you are not ready for this. Steve Buscemi!
Do you think God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear of what he's created?
No, Steve Buscemi doo-wopped? He doo-wopped his little heart out. This information has changed my life in ways you cannot even imagine. We have to talk about the Jackwins first. The three main Jackwins that help out Elena the most are Skylar, Miggs, and Luna. In Season 1's Flight of the Jackwins, we learn how every year Chief Zephyr picks a Navegera. A Navegera is a teacher to the three young Jackwins being sent from the realm of the Jackwins, or Baestrea. They are being sent to learn how to be Guardians of AvaLOR. This is not chosen by skill or merit. This picking of the teacher is chosen by a lottery, and they use the word lottery, not me. However, this random decision can be called off if the group disapproves of who's chosen. I don't know why at this point they wouldn't just fucking vote. But we needed this moment to see that no one trusted Skylar, not even his own friends. It was kind of painful. The only one that vouched for him was Elena. In this episode, we also learned that Skylar and his little brother Nico are the sons of the king of Baestrea. At first, all we knew about Miggs is that he was the most responsible and that he was a bit of a kiss-ass. But Season 2, Episode 4, Three Jackwins and a Princess, shows a totally different side of him. Miggs introduces his new mate, his words not mine, named Dulce. We just met her and they're already announcing that they're going to be parents. Okay, this is all happening kind of fast. Holy shit, she just lays 3 eggs right in front of us as we're processing everything else we were just told. Turns out Miggs needed more time to process everything too, because the idea of being a dad to 3 really sends him spiraling. The first decision Miggs makes as a new dad is letting Isabella, an 11-year-old, watch his 3 eggs. Alone. This terrible decision-making didn't lead to anybody telling Miggs off. This was actually an Isabella lesson. Like, oh, you need to ask for help when you need help. What about the fully grown man that's a new father? leaving his kids with a child. Miggs also ends up being the new chief of the Guardians at the end, and to be honest, I don't think he deserves it. He is so condescending to his friends when he makes the same amount of mistakes. Next, we'll talk about the spirit world. It gives us insight on Chanuls, but also other kinds of spirits. We first travel to the spirit world in the season 1 episode Spirit Monkey Business. We meet Bobo, who was kicked out of spirit guide school, and usually only spirit guides are able to travel to the land of the living with their stripes that they earned from becoming spirit guides. But Bobo was able to travel here using a maziko. The spirit world is a tree where each of the branches houses different spirits. Good spirits, bad spirits, ancestors and upper management, the zanies, and spirit guides. We saw the spirit world 2 more times in season 3, once during the finale, and before that in the episode Flower of Light. Flower of Light was the 4th Day of the Dead episode, meaning 4 years have passed. And in this episode, we see what the spirit world looks like on Dia de los Muertos. The portal between the human realm and the spirit realm is open, and it is opened by joy. The visual representation of that joy is the flowers that bloom around the portal. Also, this episode is the first time we've seen Elena's pre-trapped and amulet life mentioned outside of her family. We get to see her pre-trapped and amulet friend, Felicia, who is now 50 or 60 and mourning her husband. This episode made me cry, you already know. It was so sad. In episode 3 of season 1, we meet a giant lava rock monster named Charoka, who controls the volcano Monfuego. It's giving me the same vibe as the Earth Giants from Frozen, and since this is all Disney, I propose that this is the same kind of elemental magic. This is like his big brother. And all of this was really cool, until the episode A Lava Story. We meet another Rockador, which is very exciting for Charoka because he thought he was the last one. He gets even more excited when he realizes that this other Rockador is a girl. Her name is Charika, which is like his name but girly, and you can tell she's a girl because she wears jewels, and she's pink, and she has an hourglass figure. Now he has someone to repopulate with. How, you ask? They're gonna make the bedrock.
Oh, yeah.
Did I introduce them just for that joke? Yes, moving on. Sunbirds live in the realm of the Jackwins, and the first one we meet is named Kitamos, and he is an oracle. He helps Elena learn more about the Scepter of Light and gives her vague, ominous messages about the future. We meet other Sunbirds in the Tale of Two Scepters, and the rest of what they do is directly woven into the next story arc, which is awkward. This all starts with the very end of Season 2, Episode 20, No Place Like Home. Victor and Carla, who I've been calling the Jewel Thieves, reunite with Ash, Victor's wife and Carla's mother. Prior to this episode, it was heavily implied that Ash was dead, but it turns out she just disappeared for 7 years. As one does. Season 2, Episode 23 shows just how upset Victor is with her, saying, "You were only supposed to be gone for 1 year. We thought you were dead." Ash shows no remorse, simply stating, "Malvago training took longer than I thought." She was probably cheating on him, right? Is that what we're all thinking? That's what I'm thinking. During the Season 2 finale, Ash and Carla almost drain Elena's magic with the Jewel of the Scepter of the Night. But thanks to Naomi, Victor is caught, and thanks to Mateo, the Jewel of the Scepter of the Night is shattered. And Gabe is also there. Actually, he did get rid of Ash's tambourita, so he did do something. Honestly, summarizing these fight scenes is such a difficult task because so much is happening all at once. And I don't just want to sit here and talk about what happens in the episodes all day. I want to get to the actual analysis part. During the Season 3 premiere, Sister of Invention, we learn a lot about Ash. We meet the teacher that trained her, Zeppolode. He is also the Malvago that destroyed her village and took everything she loved from her when she was just a child. She knew what he had done, and it hurt her, but it also convinced her that this was the only way to survive in life. She turned to evil magic during her formative years, convinced it was the only way. I don't even think we're supposed to empathize with her, but I do. She easily has the saddest backstory. I feel way worse for her than I do for Esteban. We'll compare traumas later. But for now, Ash was given a puzzle map to Takaina, the crystal forge the Maruvians used to make all their magic items. This is where we'll pause the story for now as we discuss the Maruvians. What happened to them? And what tech have we seen from them thus far? During the Season 2 premiere, The Jewel of Maru, we meet Amale, the last royal wizard of Maru. We see her spirit during the second Day of the Dead episode. We learn that she made the Scepter of Light, and even more importantly, Amale explains that when the shadows of the night tried to destroy Maru, the Jewel of Maru fended them off, but it also sent all the Maruvians to the spirit world. So this ancient civilization essentially sacrificed themselves to save the world. By the end of the episode, Elena sealed away the Jewel of Maru, so Amale was finally able to pass on after years years of guarding it. In the episode Blockheads, we saw the Kozakeks, a fire opal.
Touch. Don't touch.
This Maruvian artifact punished Elena, Naomi, Mateo, and Gabe for ignoring Isabella. The four friends were turned into these Funko Pop looking things, and they were only able to break the curse when they properly make it up to Isa by playing Ola Ball with her, gaining the perspective of how small they made her feel by not including her in their game from the beginning of the episode. It seems like the overarching theme of all of these artifacts was the introspective nature of them. It seems like the Maruvians used these items to encourage people to better themselves. Interesting. Now back to the show. In the episode To Save a Songbird, Elena's scepter was fixed, but the Sunbirds used so much of their magic, one of them is dying. And Elena's like, not on my watch.
What kind of ruler would I be if I didn't sacrifice everything for a friend who sacrificed everything for me? But... okay.
And she casually saves her life. Elena is the best Disney princess, and she gets no respect for having a show instead of a movie. But newsflash, stupids, in a show you can do more. She's so uncool for not having an hour-long thing. Instead, she has multiple hours of content. That's so uncool that she does more things. I'm honestly so pissed off because this show is so good, and I feel like people just disregard it because it's for kids or whatever. Okay, now for the best two-part special. The biggest victory, followed by the big betrayal reveal. The Magic Within Part 1 and 2. Ash got to Takaina, but Elena was watching with her scepter and followed her there. Elena fell into the well with all the magic, so now the magic within her scepter and the magic within her are enhanced. This is Elena's Super Saiyan moment. Her scepter can reflect attacks now, and her emotions bring about all sorts of powers. She can bring things to life, inanimate objects or growing flowers around her, and she can also move things, objects, or even people's emotions. Her mood is also reflected in the color of her dress, which is the coolest thing to happen to a Disney princess probably ever, and it sparkles now. What's great about this new ability, though, is that she has to meditate very quickly and calm her heightened emotions. So it's just as much a curse as it is a blessing. Speaking of a simultaneous blessing and curse, meet Flo. Elena accidentally brought this thing to life, and it acts as a pet throughout the rest of the series. She has moments where her presence is sweet, but most of the time I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe they're committing to this. I can't believe she's still here. Through her new flashback power, she also sees the disgusting betrayal of her cousin Esteban. It's a really powerful scene, as the most emotional moment of the series is also accompanied by her new emotions power, and Elena decides to throw him in the dungeon. Valid. Instead of remorse, as usual, Esteban only thinks about how this affects him, to the point where he breaks out of jail with Ash. This was the biggest red flag to me, as after all these years, he still doesn't realize that actions speak louder than words. He has the hugest victim complex. But I said I was sorry. Yeah, then you made the same mistake again. You're right back where you started, playing second fiddle to some MILF. I also have to point out that in this episode, when Mateo's trying to calm down Elena from her heightened emotions power, he says that love is the way to do so. And then we have this fun moment. I'm gonna let this scene play out.
Love is the most powerful emotion of all. Love is stronger than anger. Even if you're right, how do I find love at a time like this?
What was he gonna say? What on earth was he gonna say?
After you, Elena.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, watch it!
No, I'm sorry, I'm still on this. What was he gonna say? You are so damn lucky Flo cut you off, bro. That was not the moment for a confession. If there was ever not a moment for a confession, that was it. That would have stressed her out so much more. Her family was on a runaway parade float, and her convict cousin was on the loose. And you're about to be like, I love you. But, wait a second, but I love you though. Okay, so the way this show deals with ships is hilarious, because it simultaneously has all the ships and also none. They present everything as very playful, so it's never that serious. But if you ship any combination of the main friend group, you'd have a buttload of evidence to back it up. I thought I didn't have any opinions. I thought I can be cool and chill about this.
But obviously I can't be.
This Carla and Mateo dancing scene at the end of the show is fucking bullshit! The last time you flirted with her, she catfished you, and it almost led to your friends being killed. Let it go. Let it go! I hate this fucking ship! Also, skip ahead if you don't want to hear anything else about the finale yet. I'll give you some time. 3, 2, 1. Her mom also just died. Leave her alone. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. They're just dancing, so it's not that serious. And they're also not real. They're also not real. Why do I care? They're a bunch of drawings, bro. But to me, in here, Mateo's with Elena, obviously. Or Mateo's with Elena and Gabe. Side note, they're 20 by the end of the series, okay? So shut your mouth. That's all I have to say.
This man has one of the most disgusting personalities I've ever encountered.
So the last arc happened simultaneously with the Ash one. This arc has to do with the aftermath of Esteban disappointing his family. And me. So in the season 3 episode Captain Mateo, Esteban fell in the Tacaina well and also gained powers and a shiny new fit despite him not deserving it. He does look fucking good though, I must say. Damn it!
He's rude, he's narcissistic, he can't read. Would I like to hang out with him? No. Would I sleep with him? Yeah.
So now he's able to teleport with his staff. This will help him run away from his problems further. Also, the song in this episode with Gabe and Mateo's rivalry still going strong is just so fun. Gabe is my friend, but with a problem this large. I'm the one who should be in charge. I'm the one who should be in charge. But it's just banger after banger. I love this show. I love this show. Why'd you guys get me into it? Also in Captain Mateo, Elena discovers that she can make indestructible crystals. The next episode, Sugar Rush, shows off another way Elena's empath powers can hurt people. Elena was frantically and anxiously making chocolates, then whoever she gave them to were stuck in fast forward. The episode Dream Capture perfectly shows how her unhealthy coping mechanisms is actually making her emotions power worse. We have a whole ass Conceal Don't Feel song, but if you don't face your feelings, they will face you, one way or another. This is shown when she can't control her subconscious and her dreams start coming to life. Manifestation magic is real. Elena's out-of-control magic actually summons Esteban right in front of her so she can tell him how she really feels and get the closure she needs. I love the way they animated this tension of like the air stood still, the leaves are suspended in the air. It's just, I felt like I was watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. It really, like, it had no right to make me hold my breath. And this scene ended with Elena saying, "You are no longer my family." Which I think that's fair. But uh-oh, Esteban's feelings are hurt. So he starts training with Ash and Zeppeloti so he can take over the kingdom. He's learned nothing. He's learned nothing. He's back to where he started. The previously on Elena of AvaLORE section, before the episode Spirit of the Wizard, completely gave away what was going to happen in the episode by showing a clip of Alcazar, who we haven't seen since the Sofia the First special. Like, just watch this.
Previously on Elena of AvaLORE, I found Tacaina.
Alright, that happened recently.
We have to train him in dark magic.
That happened recently. Yeah, this is a recap of everything that's happened recently.
I'm Alcazar, the Royal Wizard of AvaLORE.
Okay, so I guess he's coming back. What the fuck? So anyway, they get the book Alcazar's spirit was put in, and Mateo finally gets to meet his grandpa. Mateo and his abuelo are bonding throughout this episode, and it's really cute. Like, Alcazar didn't even realize he had a grandson, and he's teaching him all these magic things. As Alcazar's spirit starts to fade as the book disintegrates, he teaches Mateo a potion to take him out of the book so they can finally be together. And Mateo does this successfully. But then Alcazar, his grandfather he just met, that he just brought to life, dies in front of him because of Zeppeloti, who is helped by Ash and Esteban. I keep getting comments of people who love Esteban, and I just don't know how, but we'll get to that later. Dude, the scene where Alcazar died was so messed up. They just saved him, only for him to be defeated immediately. Mateo defeats Zeppeloti with a spell he learned from Abuelo Alcazar. R.I.P. And we also see Ash's very disturbing reaction to Zeppeloti getting killed. She loved Zeppeloti, the one who took her whole life away as a child, more than anyone else in her life. This feels like Stockholm Syndrome. It's very disturbing. I think Ash is easily the most fucked up character in this entire series, and it's very understated. The more I noticed, the more my heebies were GB'd. Season 3, episode 17, The Last Laugh, Chaitana was freed. She is an ancient sorceress that conjures different monsters that have torturous abilities. In this episode, we see Cheeky Cheeky, who causes uncontrollable laughter. That's how I'm trying to be. Chitana's name was even mentioned very briefly in the season 2 episode, Not Without My Magic.
That foreshadowing is such a flex.
Purposeful writing and knowing where your story's going, AI could fucking never. Since the evildoers just powered up their team, Elena's group evened the odds by recruiting an ancient Maruvian they call the Lightning Warrior. She has gloves that control lightning. Also, this is the episode where Carla and Victor beg for forgiveness and decide they want to train to help Elena fight Ash, their own mom and wife. Damn. The last 4 episodes before the finale movie were so trippy and so narratively interesting because I thought there'd be much more action, but instead we see all the anxiety and hurt and excitement before Elena's coronation and 20th birthday. First, during the Mother's Day episode, we see flashbacks through Elena's scepter. These memories centered around Esteban right after he lost his parents, which you'd think would make us empathize with him, but on the contrary, it just made everything so much harder to process. Elena and her family showed him so much love, and he showed so much love back. He was such a sweet kid. When did his feelings go sour enough to make him the power-hungry, backstabbing man he is today? The next episode, called Heart of the Jaguar, confused me more than any other episode. As I watched it, I thought it reminded me of Alice in Wonderland mixed with Wizard of Oz. Then when I went on the Elena of AvaLORE wiki, somebody else made this exact comparison, so I've never had an original thought in my life. This episode starts with the Oracle saying that he saw a vision of Isabella on the throne, which is obviously unnerving because why would she be on the throne? Where's Elena? Did Elena die? 99% of this episode is Isabella finding her courage. All the imagery is her facing her own fears and how she gets in her own way of facing them. We don't know how much of this episode is real or if the Oracle just sent her in her own mind, but the biggest mindfuck thing that they so casually sprinkled in here is the Oracle referred to this treasure, unsure if it's even real or not, as the Heart of the Jaguar, and then proceeded to say it was named after a creature revered throughout the ages. The way he explained it made it sound like Isabella doesn't know what a jaguar is. Are jaguars extinct in this world? They have jaguars that are half jaguars, but are jaguars just not around anymore? It doesn't sit right in my brain. Lastly, in the episode To Queen or Not to Queen, after a game of What If with all of her friends, Elena questions if being a queen is the path she wants to go down, or if she just feels obligated because she always felt that it was inevitable. Zuzo helps her see through a dream what choice is best for her. In this dream, AvaLORE is under strict dictatorship under Esteban, to the point where AvaLORians can't even pick their own jobs themselves. Esteban assigns them to everybody, and they can't pursue the jobs they want or else they get thrown in jail. This helps Elena see that there really is no alternative for her, as she's the best leader for AvaLORE and she also loves being a voice for the people. But this dream was so specific. Was this an alternate reality type thing? Like, was this a multiverse thing? Because I will use this dream as more of an excuse to hate Esteban, not that I needed one.
What?
I was not the biggest fan of the finale. Right off the bat, I will say that. But let me try and outline the basics. The series finale, Coronation Day, starts with a big number, all about Elena and her friends and family and all they accomplished. It was very cute. It was very fun. The villains are planning on releasing the Shadows of the Night. You know, the ones that almost took down Maru to the point where all the ancient Maruvians had to sacrifice themselves to save the world. It's clear at this point that the villains' plan is completely aimless. Why would they think that the Shadows of the Night would want to team up with them? There's this huge fight where the sorceress Chitana was easily captured, to the point where I don't even understand why they even included her. And then Ash was casting a spell to release all of the Shadows of the Night. Elena saw Esteban and was completely blinded by rage, going after him instead of Ash. And Mateo was like, no, dude, go after her. She's the one that's letting them out. Holy shit, I'll do it myself. And he floats up there taking her tambourina, but it was too late and the shadows are let out. But when he grabbed her tambourina, Ash started falling into this pit that she just opened, but unfortunately she grabbed Elena's ankle and they both fell down. Elena and Ash compete in the spirit world for who will be brought back to life through a game of Ola Ball. This was such a weird and silly send-off to Ash. But then when she goes back home, she has to deal with the biggest enemy yet. The shadows turning her into stone? No. Esteban. Elena is so fueled by revenge, and I 1000% feel her. The audience is supposed to think she's going too far, but I'm just gonna casually trauma fart for a second. Not a full dump, just a fart. This finale sucked for me because I'm going through something similar-ish in my family. So when the finale concluded with the message of forgiveness is the only answer, I was livid. Also, 3/4 of the Shadows of the Night were not that powerful. The only Shadow of the Night that was an intimidating and effective villain was Kahu. Kahu slows down time with her sand timer and can even take a grain of sand out of it, blowing it at her victim and turning them to stone.
But I loved her because she read Esteban to filth and back.
She told him, "You seem to keep making the same mistake, trusting whomever pretends to listen." And that summarized his whole angst, his whole reason for lashing out to a T. He confessed that it wasn't because he didn't feel love. He just felt that no one respected him because they ignored his advice once. And the advice he gave to the king back in the day that he ignored was to look out for Shuriki. So when the king didn't listen, he basically ensured that what he warned him about would come true. All of this was just one great big "I told you so" for him. So how does he make it up? What does he do to earn forgiveness? Kahu was very close to turning Elena into stone, but at the last minute, Esteban teleported right in front of her, saving her and turning to stone himself. I liked this. I was like, roll credits right now. But her forgiveness brought him and everyone else back and defeated Kahu. Essentially because she isn't stuck in the past anymore. I'm fighting an eye roll, because here's the thing! I would have loved if her forgiveness brought everyone else back, but then Esteban was still stuck in stone. And maybe she questioned this, like, oh, why isn't he brought back? And somebody else could have said, it's because he never forgave himself. I would have loved that. I would have, But instead we get this fucking bullshit where he gets a free pass for everything because, oh, it's all in the past. It's not all in the past. It was up until the present, until about 2 seconds ago. Because he did one thing. It was a selfless act. But it was one selfless act and everything else he did was completely selfish. Then during the coronation party, we see Sofia and Amber and James. And their slightly aged up design has already been clowned on everywhere, but I will say this. Sofia is fine. It's the other two that really bother me. Why did they give Amber a beehive? I don't see that for her. Oh, and I guess that's the whole series. This lore video concluded in a very odd way. When I finished watching the series, it gave me a huge sense of unease. Because I think this might have been my favorite series I watched, but my least favorite conclusion. But hopefully that feeling will fade after I post this. Leave your headcanons in the comments. I need more. And stay tuned for my September schedule on my community tab. I really hope you enjoyed. Have a great one, butt lovers. Bye!